After years in Congress, battling for justice on a grand scale, who could have imagined my fiercest fight would erupt right in my own backyard? My HOA, yes, my HOA, shot my beloved service dog, Max, claiming he was lowering property values and tearing my world apart. Can you believe it? When they finally realized who I was, a congressman with real power, their pristine, manicured lives crumbled like a house of cards. But here's the question that haunts me. Would justice for Max cost me my career? I'd love to know, where are you reading this from? Drop a comment below. I'll never forget the day I rolled into Oak Ridge Estates, my heart swelling with hope. My dream home sat there, gleaming under the sun, with a charming little garden where Max, my golden retriever service dog, could romp and play. Oh, Max! He'd pulled me through the darkest moments after my overseas deployment, his soulful eyes and wagging tail a lifeline when PTSD threatened to drown me. How could I have known that sweet garden would soon turn into a battlefield? That first week felt like paradise. I kept to myself, quietly working on housing bills from my home office, staying under the radar. That's how I wanted it, just another homeowner blending in. Nobody needed to know I was a congressman. Max was my rock, easing me through PTSD episodes with his gentle nudges, keeping the ghosts of war at bay. The neighbors? They'd smile and wave, probably pegging me as some work-from-home guy in sweatpants. Life was good until it wasn't. Then, bam! A pink note appeared, slapped on my front door. The writing so furious it ripped through the paper. Unauthorized pet. Violation of HOA codes. I actually chuckled at first, really. They clearly hadn't bothered to Google service animal laws. I was snapping a photo of the note when a voice sliced through the air like a knife. You must be the new neighbor breaking our rules. There she was, storming across my lawn like she owned the place, Karen Martinez, with her perfectly styled hair, designer yoga outfit, and a smirk dripping with entitlement. I'm the HOA Community Standards Committee Chair, she announced, as if she were royalty. Queen Karen, everybody. I kept my cool. Years of congressional debates, sharpening my restraint. Nice to meet you, Karen. I'm James, and this is Max, my service dog. I reached for his papers, but she cut me off, shaking her head like I'd offered her a rotten apple. We don't allow large dogs here. They destroy property values. Barbara Thompson, our HOA president, has very specific guidelines. Her eyes zeroed in on Max, who sat calmly by my side, unfazed. Then came the kicker, and really, you don't look disabled. My grip tightened on Max's leash. Not all wounds are visible, lady. I wanted to shout it, but instead, I flashed a tight smile. I understand your concern, but service animals are protected under federal law. I have all the documentation. She whipped out her phone, snapping photos of my house, my garden, my Max, like she was building a case for the Supreme Court. We'll see about that. This isn't over. She spat, storming off, her fancy sneakers denting my freshly watered lawn. Sleep eluded me that night. Max sensed my unease, curling up closer than usual, his warm fur a comfort against my racing thoughts. I'd faced down hostile governments, argued bills on the House floor, yet Karen's threat felt so personal, like a punch to the gut. Why did it sting so much? As Max dozed by my desk, I dove into Oak Ridge Estates HOA regulations, hunting for any mention of service animals. Guess what? Nothing. They hadn't even considered it. Clueless! Morning brought a shock. My garden fence was defaced, the word violation screaming in bright red spray paint. My security cameras caught it all. Karen, directing some lackey to vandalize my property. The paint was still wet when I touched it, and Max's paw prints left red streaks on the sidewalk. Exactly what they wanted, evidence to frame my boy. I was typing a fiery email to the HOA board when another knock rattled my door. This time it was Barbara Thompson herself, the HOA president, clutching a thick folder like it was a weapon. She barely glanced at me, her eyes locked on Max with pure disgust. "Mr. Sullivan," she purred, her voice oozing fake sympathy. "We pride ourselves on maintaining certain standards here. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable in another neighborhood." Max pressed against my leg, grounding me as my anxiety spiked. That's when I spotted Karen lurking in the background, filming everything on her phone, probably hoping I'd snap. Did they really think I'd crack so easily? They had no clue who they were messing with or the laws they were trampling. But I played it smart. "Thank you for your concern, Barbara," I said, my voice steady. "I'll review these complaints carefully." I took the folder, channeling my congressional poker face, honed through countless tense committee hearings. Then I dropped a bomb. "By the way, does the HOA have insurance for federal housing law violations?" Barbara's smile flickered, just for a heartbeat. Karen froze, her phone lowering. "Oh, they didn't see that coming. They had no idea they just ignited a war they couldn't win." As I shut the door, their frantic whispers filled the air. Max gazed up at me, his wise eyes gleaming, and I scratched behind his ears. "Don't worry, buddy," I whispered. "They're in for a surprise." That night, reports of mysterious property damage flooded the HOA, all targeting homes near mine. Coincidence? Hardly. From my window, I watched Karen and Barbara prowling the neighborhood, pointing at houses, snapping photos like amateur detectives. My security cameras recorded every move. Gotcha. The puzzle pieces were falling into place, but a chill ran through me. Was this just the beginning? What would they do next? Whatever it was, it wouldn't just shake me and Max, it could change the game for homeowners everywhere. The next morning, I jolted awake to a camera clicking outside my window. Karen again, in her pink jogging suit, snapping pictures of my yard like a paparazzo. Max's ears perked, a low growl rumbling. "Third time this week, really, Karen? Got to document all the dog poop ruining our property values," she shouted when she saw me. I hadn't even had my coffee. Max never left messes. His service dog training was flawless, costing me 2 years and $30. After my last deployment. I grabbed my phone, recording her trespassing on my lawn. Her face turned beet red. "You can't film me. This is harassment," she screeched, stomping her foot like a toddler. The irony was thicker than her yoga mat. By mid-morning, I found flyers stuffed in every neighbor's mailbox, screaming about dangerous animals with a blurry photo of Max napping in my yard. Karen had scribbled red circles around his massive fangs, hilarious, since it was just Max yawning. I kept one for my growing file of HOA nonsense. My cameras later caught her sending her teenage son, Tommy, to plant fake dog waste in my yard. Poor kid looked mortified, mouthing sorry to my doorbell cam. I didn't blame him. Karen was the kind of mom who'd punish him for saying no. Trouble escalated during our evening walk with Max. We strolled by the community garden I'd helped plant last spring, such a proud moment. But there was Karen with Barbara, pointing at my tomato plants like they were contraband. "They're not regulation height," Karen whined, waving a ruler like a scepter. "And who knows what diseases that dog could spread to our vegetables." I stopped dead, pulling out my phone. "Oh, really?" I played them the recording from our last HOA meeting where they'd greenlit my garden plans. Karen's face cycled through every shade of purple, priceless. "You're not allowed to record meetings," she shrieked. "Oh, but I was. I'd checked state laws before moving here. Know your rights, folks." That night, a weird smell hit me while cooking dinner. Max went berserk, barking at the window. I raced outside. My garden was wilting. Someone had doused it with industrial weed killer, murdering the tomato plants. I'd grown for our community food bank. My heart sank. The cameras? They caught Karen's husband, Mike, sneaking around in a black hoodie like a wannabe cat burglar. "Seriously, Mike?" I called the police, filing a report. Officer Martinez, no relation to Karen, thank goodness, snapped photos and took notes. "You know," she said softly, "we've had 7 complaints about this HOA in the past month." She slipped me her card with a knowing nod. Into my evidence file it went, This wasn't just about Max anymore. It was a fight for fairness, for every homeowner bullied by power-hungry HOAs. But as I looked at Max, sleeping peacefully despite the chaos, I wondered, how far would Karen and Barbara go? And could I protect my furry hero without losing everything I'd worked for? The battle was just heating up, and I was ready, were they? The next morning, my heart sank as I peered through my blinds. Karen had called an emergency HOA meeting about property values. Can you believe her nerve? I watched neighbors shuffle into her house, some dragging their feet, clearly uneasy, while others practically buzzed with excitement, craving drama. My sweet, elderly neighbor, Miss S. Jackson, who adored Max, caught my eye as she passed. Her slow head shake sent a shiver down my spine. What were they plotting now? Later, she slipped a note into my mailbox, her handwriting trembling. They're planning something big. Be careful. Oh, Max, what have we gotten ourselves into? I couldn't just sit there, could I? I fired off clips from my security cameras to an old friend at the local news station, not for airing. Mind you, just a little insurance in case things got uglier. Then I sank into my chair, pulled out my congressional letterhead, and started drafting a letter about discriminatory housing practices. My hands trembled as I typed, how dare they target us like this. But Max, my golden anchor, pressed his head against my leg, steadying me like he always did. His calm eyes whispered, "We've got this, James." Then crash. A rock smashed against my window, jarring me to my core. I rushed to the glass and saw Tommy Martinez, Karen's teenage son, tears streaming down his face. His mother's hand clamped on his shoulder, forcing him to hurl another. My heart broke for the kid. How could she do this to her own son? Neighbors gawked from their driveways, phones out, recording the chaos, but not one stepped in to stop her. Cowards! When the second rock shattered my living room window, glass sparkling like cruel confetti, I grabbed my phone. Oh, Karen, you have no idea what's coming. Tomorrow's HOA meeting would have a surprise guest me, not just as a homeowner, but as Congressman James Sullivan. Watching Max tremble under my desk, his brave heart shaken by the noise, I wondered, had I waited too long to show my true colors? Should I have played my trump card sooner? My loyal friend didn't deserve this fear. I strode into the HOA meeting room, my pulse hammering like a war drum, Max guiding me with his quiet strength to an empty chair. The room hushed, but Karen's loud whisper cut through. He's breaking the rules again, bringing that dog in here. Really, Karen? I took a deep breath, channeling every fiery debate I'd survived in Washington. This wasn't just any fight, it was personal, raw, and all for Max. Barbara Thompson stood at the podium, her gray hair sculpted to perfection, her pressed blazer screaming control. That fake smile of hers, ugh, I'd seen it too many times. Before we begin tonight's meeting, she cooed, we have an urgent matter to discuss regarding unauthorized pets and property values. Every eye in the room swiveled to me and Max. Some neighbors looked away, shame written all over their faces. Did they know what was coming? Were they too scared to challenge the HOA's iron grip? I stroked Max's head, his calm presence fueling my courage. Karen shot up from her seat, brandishing a stack of papers like a sword. I have proof, she shrieked. This dog's been peeing on my prize-winning roses. My kids can't even play outside anymore, they're allergic. I nearly laughed out loud. Her kids were splashing around with the Watson's Labrador at the pool just yesterday. Not a sneeze in sight. What a performance. I rose slowly, pulling out Max's service animal certification and a crisp copy of the Fair Housing Act. Max is a registered service animal, and under federal law, Karen's voice sliced through like a banshee. We don't care about your so-called federal laws. This is our community. We make the rules. Her face flushed crimson as she stormed toward me, jabbing her finger. My property values have tanked 15% since you moved in with that mutt. Oh, please, Karen, spare us the theatrics. The room exploded into chaos, neighbors yelling about their own property values, some daring to defend me. Through the madness, I caught Tom Thompson, Barbara's husband, filming it all with a smug smirk. What was he up to? That smirk would haunt me later. It cost him everything. If I may, I said, my voice slicing through the uproar, steady as it was on the house floor. I've pulled our neighborhood's property records. I flipped open my laptop, hooking it to the projector. Time for a reality check. Actually, property values have climbed 12% since I moved in. The only dip? Karen's unauthorized pool installation that cracked her neighbor's foundation. Boom, take that. Silence crashed over the room. Karen's mouth flapped like a fish gasping for air, speechless at last. But I wasn't done. I've also got satellite images showing Barbara's new fence juts 3 feet into public land. That's why I keep getting citations about Max being off leashes in what's actually public space. Barbara's face drained of color. Gotcha. This meeting is adjourned, she barked, scrambling to gather her papers. Too late. Barbara, the damage was done. Neighbors raised their hands, itching to spill their own tales of HOA harassment. That's when Karen lost it completely. She marched right up to Max, who sat statue still despite her aggression. "This dog's dangerous," she screamed. "Look, he's growling at me." Growling? Max didn't make a peep. Everyone saw it. He tried to attack my precious Bella yesterday. I whipped out my phone, queuing up a security clip from my front yard. "You mean when your leash chihuahua charged us, and Max calmly guided me away?" The video played, clear as day, and gasps rippled through the crowd. Barbara slammed her gavel, desperate. "That's unauthorized recording." "You can't, actually," I said, cool as ice. "HOA bylaws only ban recording private homes. Common areas? Fair game." Years of poring over legislative fine print paid off. Score 1 for the congressman. As the meeting spiraled into pandemonium, I noticed Tom slip out a side door, phone in hand, texting like his life depended on it. Max's ears twitched, picking up something I missed. If only I'd clocked that moment, could I have stopped what came next. Karen stormed out, hurling a final threat over her shoulder. "This isn't over. You'll regret moving here." Her words chilled me, not out of fear, but because I knew her type bullies like Karen and Barbara were why I'd fought for housing reform my whole career. Did they have any idea who they were tangling with? Not yet. Walking home with Max under a glowing sunset, I noticed neighbors peeling down their "no pets allowed" signs. Small wins, right? But the air felt heavy, dangerous. Max's usual easy stride was tense, his senses on high alert. Could he feel what I was starting to grasp? This wasn't just about my service dog anymore. It was about power, control, and standing up to tyrants. Little did I know, tomorrow morning would flip our world upside down. Sunday dawned with birds chirping, Max nudging my hand for our morning routine, our sacred time. The sun peeked through clouds, dew glistened on the grass, perfect for Max's training exercises. But as I stepped into the backyard, something felt wrong, like a storm brewing. Whispers drifted from Karen's yard, shattering our peace. I tried to brush it off. We were used to her spying, weren't we? Max stayed laser-focused, his golden fur shimmering as he helped me balance, reminding me he was so much more than a pet. Then slam! Karen's back door crashed shut. "You're filming this, right, Tom?" Her shrill voice pierced the fence. "We need evidence of this nuisance." I focused on Max, ignoring her nonsense. We'd already filed 3 police reports for their harassment. My lawyer was building a rock-solid case. But Max's ears shot up, his body shifting to shield me from the fence. Danger mode, something he only did when trouble loomed. Footsteps crunched leaves along the property line, right where Karen had whined about my unauthorized garden bed. What now? "Hey, your mutt's threatening my wife," Tom's voice thundered from behind the fence. "Threatening?" I turned slowly, keeping my tone steady, honed by years of tense congressional talks. "Max is a trained service animal, Tom. He's not threatening anyone." But my heart raced. How far would they push this? Would Max and I ever find peace? in this neighborhood? My heart froze as Karen's face popped up over the fence, her phone aimed at us like a weapon. "We've warned you about this dangerous animal," she screeched, her voice dripping with that same entitled rage I'd heard at every HOA meeting. "Your dog's tanking our property values." Dangerous? Max? I reached for my own phone, ready to capture whatever lies she'd spew next. How could she keep up this charade? Then, out of nowhere, Tom stepped from behind his garage, and my blood turned to ice. The morning sun glinted off the metal of a gun in his hands, a home security weapon. My stomach dropped. "Tom," I said, forcing calm into my voice. Hands raised. "Think really hard about what you're doing." Max stood like a statue beside me, his training shining through the tension. My brave boy was doing exactly what he was meant to, keeping me safe, staying steady. "Oh, Max, how did we end up here?" "I'm the head of neighborhood security," Tom bellowed, his face beet red with fury. "I'm protecting our community." Karen kept filming, her smile widening with every second, like she was directing some twisted movie. Then it all unraveled so fast. A neighbor's car backfired down the street. "Pop!" Karen screamed. "He's attacking!" And Tom's finger tightened on the trigger. "No!" I dove for Max, but I was too late. The shot exploded through the quiet morning, a thunderclap that shattered my world. Max's yelp of pain, oh God, that sound tore my heart into a million jagged pieces. My gentle, courageous partner crumpled onto the dew-kissed grass, his golden fur staining red with blood. "Max, how could they do this to you? Self-defense!" Karen shrieked, still recording, her voice wild. "We all saw it. That dog was aggressive." But her words faltered, cracking as neighbors spilled out of their homes, phones raised, capturing the ugly truth. They saw it all, didn't they? Max wasn't the monster here. I dropped to my knees, cradling Max's head in my lap, my congressional training kicking in to keep me focused. I pressed hard on his wound, desperate to stop the bleeding. His soft brown eyes locked onto mine, still brimming with trust despite the pain. "Oh, Max, hang on for me." Sirens wailed in the distance. Someone had called 911, thank God. My hands shook as I fumbled for my phone, hitting the emergency contact I'd prayed I'd never need. "Sarah, it's James," I choked out. "They shot Max. Get the legal team now." Karen gasped, a sharp intake of breath. She recognized my voice, the same voice she'd heard on C-SPAN last week during the housing committee hearing. Tom's gun clattered to the ground, his face paling, but none of it mattered. Not Karen's stammered excuses, not Tom's sudden panic, not even the police sirens growing louder. All I cared about was Max's heartbeat, faint and fluttering under my hands. "Stay with me, buddy!" I scooped my brave partner into my arms, his weight heavy with trust, and carried him to my car. As I did, I made two ironclad promises. Max would survive, and these people would learn the hard way. Why you don't cross a congressman's service dog. Neighbors stood frozen, watching in stunned silence as I peeled out toward the emergency vet, leaving Karen and Tom to face the swarm of police cars rolling into our once peaceful street. They wanted to bicker over property values? Oh, they were about to discover the real cost of their cruelty. But would Max hold on long enough for me to fight for his justice? In the emergency vet's waiting room, my hands wouldn't stop trembling. Max's blood soaking my favorite blue shirt, a grim reminder of the horror. The clock's tick-tock was pure torture, each second stretching into eternity as I waited for news. Every time the door creaked open, my heart leaped. Please, tell me Max is okay. Was my best friend going to pull through? My phone buzzed relentlessly. Sarah, my chief of staff, calling for the 5th time. I finally answered, my voice barely a whisper. "They shot him, Sarah. They shot my dog." Her reply hit like a freight train. "Sir, turn on the news right now," she urged. "Someone posted a video of the shooting on social media. It's everywhere." With shaking fingers, I grabbed my tablet and clicked the first link she sent. There it was, raw and gut-wrenching, shaky footage from a neighbor's second-story window, showing it all Tom with his gun, Karen ranting about property values, and Max's heartbreaking yelp that would haunt my nightmares forever. Over 1 million views already. The world was watching. Could this be the spark to finally expose them? The waiting room doors burst open, and Barbara Thompson stormed in, her designer handbag flailing as she thrust her phone in my face. "You're him!" she gasped, her perfectly made-up face pale, mascara smudging. "You're Congressman Sullivan." Can you imagine her shock? I rose slowly, standing tall, my secret life in this community shattering like glass. "Yes, Barbara, I am," I said, voice firm. "And you and your husband just shot a congressionally protected service animal on video. Take that." She stumbled back, nearly toppling a chair. "But you never said anything," she stammered. "You let us think you were just some homeowner." "I wanted peace, Barbara," I snapped. "I chose this place to work quietly on my housing reform bill, drawn by your promise of a tranquil community. Instead, you've harassed a disabled veteran and his service dog for months. How could they be so blind to their own cruelty?" Karen barged in next, her face flushed with rage, but fear flickered in her eyes. "It's a trick. He's lying," she yelled, but her voice broke when she saw the waiting room TV silently playing the news, my congressional headshot beside the damning footage of the shooting. Busted! My phone buzzed again, a flood of messages pouring in from fellow Congress members. Reporters, veteran groups, disability advocates, #Justice for Max was trending nationwide. Can you feel the momentum? The world was rallying for my boy. The young vet tech emerged, her scrubs stained with Max's blood, and my heart lodged in my throat. I rushed to her, ignoring Barbara and Karen, who fell silent, finally realizing the mess they'd made. "He's stable," she said softly, and relief crashed over me like a wave. "The bullet missed his vital organs, but he'll need surgery. Dr. Patterson wants to talk about the procedure." "Stable? Oh, Max, you fighter." But relief gave way to fury. I wheeled on Barbara and Karen, now cowering by the exit. "I've spent a year crafting housing reform legislation," I said, my voice sharp. "But now, I'm adding ironclad provisions for service animals and HOA oversight. Your actions are Exhibit A for congressional hearings." "Take that, bullies." Karen's face crumpled. "But our property values," she wailed. "Our community standards." "Your property values?" I scoffed, bitterness dripping. "Check Zillow, Karen. News spreads fast. Oak Ridge Estates homes are listing below market value now. Turns out, shooting a congressman's service dog isn't exactly a selling point." Barbara grabbed her phone, scrolling frantically, and her gasp confirmed that prices were plummeting. "We can fix this," she begged. "We'll drop the complaints, pay the vet bills." "Too late," I said, pulling a folder from my briefcase. "This is justice." Inside were every nasty letter they'd sent. Photos of my trashed garden, recordings of their discriminatory HOA meetings. "The FBI's already on this service animal interference is a federal crime." "Bet they didn't see that coming," the vet tech returned. "Sir, Dr. Patterson's ready for you." I gathered my things, watching Barbara slump into a chair, face buried in her hands. Karen stood frozen, staring at her phone as furious comments flooded the HOA's social media. "Good luck spinning this one." As I headed to see Max, Barbara's whisper followed me. "What have we done?" I paused, hand on the door, and looked back. "You thought I was powerless, so you tried to ruin my life and hurt my dog. Now you'll face the law. You ignored the real power. The next hours would change everything. But right now, Max was all that mattered. Stepping through those doors, one question burned. Would saving him cost my career? Or would this be the moment that defined it? "Oh, Max, we're not done fighting yet." The morning sun barely broke through the clouds when I peered out my window. And what a sight! News vans swarmed our once tranquil street like vultures circling their prey, their antennas poking at the sky. I watched Karen Martinez pacing her front lawn, decked out in her designer yoga pants, frantically waving off reporters while clutching her phone like a lifeline. Can you believe it? The smug confidence that usually defined her was gone. Replaced by raw panic, her perfect world was unraveling faster than a cheap sweater. Max's blood still stained my back patio, a cruel reminder of their brutality, and yet here they were, scrambling as their pristine kingdom crumbled. Oh, how the mighty fall. My phone buzzed again, another urgent text from Sarah, my chief of staff. The story had exploded into national headlines. Congressmember service dog shot by HOA board member. Social media was ablaze with outrage. Have you seen anything like it? I opened Twitter, my heart racing, and watched the security camera footage I'd released go viral, racking up millions of views. The crystal clear audio of Karen shrieking about property values just before Tom pulled the trigger. Absolutely damning. No amount of spin could save them now. Could they even try? A soft whimper pulled me from my thoughts. Max, my brave boy, lay in his bed, his bandaged side a constant dagger in my heart. How could they do this to you, buddy? A knock at the door made him flinch, and I peeked through the peephole to see Barbara Thompson, her perfectly styled hair now a disheveled mess, wringing her hands like a nervous schoolgirl. I cracked the door open just enough to hear her trembling plea. "Congressman Sullivan, please," she stammered, eyes wide with desperation. "We can work this out. We had no idea who you were." Karen was only trying to protect our community standards. And Tom made a terrible mistake. What'll it take to keep this quiet? A cold smile crept across my face. Really, Barbara? Protect community standards? I said, voice sharp as a blade. Let me show you something. I grabbed my tablet, pulling up the file my team had painstakingly compiled. Here's every HOA violation notice in Oak Ridge Estates for the past 5 years. Take a good look. Notice anything odd about who got them? Her face drained of color as I scrolled through the data, each entry a glaring indictment. Every single complaint: pets, yard upkeep, community standards targeted minorities, disabled folks, or elderly homeowners scraping by on fixed incomes. The pattern screamed injustice. How could they live with themselves? This isn't just about Max anymore, I said, my voice low but firm. While you were harassing my service dog, my office was digging into HOA abuse nationwide. Guess what? Oak Ridge Estates just became Exhibit A. A commotion erupted down the street, snapping our attention. Karen was at it again, screaming at a reporter who dared step onto her sacred lawn. "You don't get it," she wailed, voice cracking. "Property values are everything. We can't have dogs running wild. It attracts the wrong kind of people." The reporter's camera caught every unhinged word, broadcasting her prejudice to the world. I almost felt a pang of pity for her almost. Did she really think she could talk her way out of this? My phone buzzed once more, and my jaw dropped. The housing reform bill I'd been quietly championing for months was suddenly surging with support. Colleagues who'd hemmed and hawed were now clamoring to co-sponsor. Can you believe the timing? A viral video of HOA cruelty against a congressman's service dog had shifted the political winds overnight. Who knew Max's pain could spark such change? Barbara stood there, trembling like a leaf in a storm. "What do you want from us?" she whispered, voice barely audible. I handed her a thick envelope, my eyes locked on hers. "Here's your shot to do right," I said. "Inside is my proposal to overhaul Oak Ridge Estates governance, new board elections, third-party oversight, mandatory civil rights training for every board member. Sign it now, or I'll slap your discrimination data on the table at my congressional testimony next week." Her hands shook so badly she could hardly grip the envelope, fumbling to open it. Behind her, I caught sight of Tom, Barbara's husband, being led out of his house in handcuffs. Police lights flashing like a beacon of justice. Finally, They'd arrested him for animal cruelty and reckless firearm use about time. Karen was sobbing into her phone, probably begging her lawyer for a miracle. Good luck with that. Max limped to my side, his tail giving a weak wag as he took in the chaos. I scratched behind his ears, my heart swelling with gratitude. All those nights he'd guided me through PTSD episodes, his steady presence a lifeline. How dare they try to rip him away from me? My brave boy deserved better. Another text lit up my phone photos from a neighbor showing piles of shredded HOA documents in Barbara's garage, caught on camera last night. More evidence for the investigation. Their house of cards was collapsing faster than they could hide the pieces. Did they really think they could outrun this? Protesters began gathering at the community entrance, their signs plastered with Max's sweet face, demanding justice loud and clear. Local news crews swarmed, interviewing residents who'd been muzzled by HOA threats for years. One elderly woman broke down, tears streaming as she told how fines for her wheelchair ramp had nearly bankrupted her. Can you imagine the heartlessness? A Latino family held up papers proving they'd been cited for cooking odors from their traditional meals. Pure discrimination. My blood boiled. How many lives had these bullies ruined? Barbara's hand quaked as she signed my documents, her voice a whisper. Please, she begged, my husband's on the city council. This'll destroy us. I checked each signature, my expression hard. You should have thought of that before shooting a congressman's service dog, I said. But don't worry, you'll have plenty of time to reflect during the federal investigation. As she scurried away, I caught Karen on live TV, floundering to defend herself. I didn't know he was in Congress, she cried. We just wanted to keep our standards. Dogs cut property values by 15%. The reporter shut her down cold. MAAM. Did you know discriminating against service animals is a federal crime, no matter who the owner is? Ouch, bet that stung. I shut my door, sinking down beside Max, exhaustion hitting like a tidal wave. My phone kept buzzing calls from major networks, fellow Congress members, disability rights groups, but I couldn't face it yet. Tomorrow, I'd tackle it all, start turning this nightmare into real reform. But tonight, I held Max close, his warmth grounding me, and whispered, "We got him, buddy. We finally got him." Outside, another news van rolled up, and I couldn't help but wonder how many HOAs across America were about to face their own reckoning. Days passed, and the vet's words echoed. Max might never walk the same again. But they didn't know my dog's spirit. I watched him take his first wobbly steps across our living room, his golden fur patchy from surgery, yet his eyes sparkled with defiance. The news vans had finally cleared out, but Oak Ridge Estates was scarred forever. Every time Max flinched at a loud noise, my heart splintered. Why did you have to suffer, Max? Karen's perfect little empire was in tatters. Word spread she'd tried selling her house, but who'd buy from the woman who helped shoot a congressman's service dog? Nobody. My phone wouldn't quit buzzing, senators, representatives, all asking about Max. His story had struck a chord nationwide. Can you feel the love for my boy? Just last week, I caught Karen sneaking into my backyard, phone in hand, probably hunting for more dirt to fling. Did she ever learn? This time, I was ready. New security cameras caught every move, including her pathetic attempt to plant fake dog waste. The police weren't so chummy with her anymore. Busted again. Barbara, the former HOA president, sent a letter begging to meet, claiming she could explain everything and make it right. Explain what, Barbara? I read it twice, then handed it to Max. He turned it into a chew toy. Their crocodile tears meant nothing. I'd uncovered years of their dirty deeds, and other homeowners were stepping up, sharing how Karen and Barbara had targeted the vulnerable elderly folks, single parents, minorities with bogus violations. How low can you go? The media dove deeper, unearthing recordings of HOA meetings where Karen boasted about forcing a young widow to sell because her baby's cries were a nuisance. A nuisance? Barbara's emails laid bare her mission to keep certain people out to protect our values. Their own words became their downfall, poetic justice, right? My team dropped a bombshell. Tom, who shot Max, had lied about his security credentials. No firearm license as the HOA's security coordinator, none. The police pounced on that tidbit, another nail in their coffin. Max's physical therapy sessions became our weekly bright spot. Neighborhood dog lovers stopped by with treats and kind words, even Miss S. Jackson, once the queen of complaints, brought homemade dog biscuits. The community was knitting itself back together, but not everyone was thrilled. Karen launched a pathetic social media counter campaign, painting herself as the victim. Really? She posted doctored clips of Max barking, but my footage showed her poking at him through the fence. Her followers vanished faster than the neighborhood's property values. The biggest shock came from Karen's own daughter, Emma. One afternoon, she showed up, tears glistening, apologizing for her mom's cruelty. Can you imagine the courage? She'd been secretly recording Karen's HOA meetings for months, sickened by their treatment of others. Emma's tapes were gold for the federal investigation. Talk about a plot twist. Last night, I watched Max play with the neighbor kids for the first time since the shooting. His limp didn't stop his tail from wagging like crazy. "Oh, Max, you're unstoppable!" A reporter asked if I dropped the charges for an apology from Barbara and Karen. I looked at Max, saw the blood on his fur in my mind, the fear in his eyes, the nights of pain. A simple sorry? No way, that can't fix this. The old HOA board's office sits empty now, their precious rule books gathering dust like forgotten relics. The interim resident council uncovered documents proving Karen and Barbara had siphoned HOA fees into their own accounts for years. Thieves. They thought their perfect kingdom was untouchable, didn't they? Never saw a congressman and his three-legged dog coming to topple it all. Tomorrow, Max has another vet checkup. His recovery slow but steady, teaching me daily about resilience. As I sit on my porch, the sunset painting the sky, I see Karen loading boxes into her car, her house sold at half her asking price. Karma's got a wicked sense of humor, doesn't it? But a certified letter from her lawyer sits on my desk, glaring at me. Is this fight really over, or is she plotting one last desperate jab? Oh, Max, whatever comes, we'll face it together, stronger than ever.